Well, we're talking today about the issue of singleness and living in Christian community. And Tina Tschage, we're very grateful to have you along here. You've worked in a church planting project in Frankfurt and as an editorial journalist and presenter in various television stations. And now you're a freelancer, writing books, giving seminars, running workshops, and you have a real passion to see people grow and develop. But you've also got a master's degree in biblical and theological studies, and you're currently living in a Christian community in Munich. So you're eminently well suited to be telling us about both singleness and living in community. So perhaps we could start by, could you sketch out for us some of the unique opportunities that single Christians have?
Well, we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of time. Well, I don't have to take care of husband or children, so there's a lot of time that I'm able to just, bring into church, invest into others. I love that a lot. And the most important thing for me is that I, as a single in my early 30s, I have the chance, well, I'm urged to, but it's also a chance and a great opportunity to think about my life. You know, I did not went the kind of normal way. For me, it's not the normal way to get engaged, get married, have children, but it seems to be the normal way. And I just took another way. It was not my wish to do it that way. It just went like that. So I had the privilege to think about my life. What goals do I have? What do I want? What does God want from my life? That's very existential. So it's a very deep thing to think about. And I had to do that with 30 years because I no husband, no children yet. So, okay, God, what are we going to do with that life? Most married people have that very late when children are gone or when the husband or wife maybe leaves or dies. They are at this point of life, and I have it now.
Okay,
And
so you're actually grappling with these questions of
Yes.
what's the meaning and purpose of my life, and
Yes.
what does the Lord have for me much earlier, and your singleness gave you an opportunity
Yes.
to do that other people might not have. Yeah.
It's hard, but it's so worthy.
And you say it's hard. Tell us about some of the struggles that single people face uniquely.
Well, we often feel just wrong because it just seems not to be the right thing being single without husband or without wife, having no children. Loneliness is a big thing. The questions I have for myself. So what is wrong with me? Why is there nobody who wants me as wife? Where is my big problem or whatever? And also the questions others have for me, you know, you're such a nice person. Why is there nobody? I don't know. And also the questions I have and the doubts I have with God, you know. And the Bible says every wish you have, God will do. He also says everything will be fine, stuff like that. And people say, you know, Tina, your life is just right. And I'm like, yeah, but still something is missing. So the lack of relationship is a big deal.
And sometimes people in the church may not be as helpful as they could be. So what do Christians do, sometimes unwittingly, that actually make things worse and harder for those who are single?
Well, those questions are always hard because they don't help. And what I wish is that people just ask, okay, what is your struggle? What is your feeling? How do you deal? I want to learn about your life. And they don't, because we are pretty quick in giving tips. Do it that way. And hey, you have a lot of time. You can be involved in church and do stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to be married, you know? It's not that easy always. So
Are there any things that people have said or asked you that have been particularly unhelpful that those listening could learn from?
the worst thing is that people tell me, Tina, as a single lady, you can't be happy.
Really?
You need your second half.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's very devastating for my life.
let's turn the question around and say, what can people who are married or other singles do to help to support people who are single and really help them to grow in Christ into the full potential that He has for them?
Well, the most important thing is to support each other and to listen to each other and really ask, okay, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What is the thing that I could do wrong? There's a lot of misunderstanding. And just ask, okay, how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I encourage you? Help you to grow in your faith, to grow in your trust to the Lord. That's the most important thing. And to talk to each other. It's not one direction, you know. As singles, we need to talk to each other about every topic we have, every struggle, every joy. And I love to do that very authentically. But in church, that's one of the most thing we don't do, is that we don't talk. You know, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And nobody cares really about the other person. And I'm really sad about that.
What have you found personally that's helped you most of all to keep growing and keep active in ministry?
Well, the first thing is that I have to be very honest to myself. You know, it starts always with myself, that I find out I am sad sometimes that I'm still single. I am sad that there's no husband and that there's no children. And to deal with that grief, and I'm mourning sometimes. I'm just at home and sit there and there's tears coming, and that's okay. And that's not only okay, it's necessary for my life. And then also look at the other side. There's a lot of happy things, a lot of opportunities that I have because I am single. I can go on travels and don't have to care about husband or children, you know. And that is great. So when I do workshops or seminars, I always talk about the bank balance of my life. There's a lot of credit, yes, a lot of things that I'm missing, but there's a lot of debit, and that's great. And to look to both and get the feelings with both, and be sad and cry about the credit, and be happy and celebrate the debit. So that's my strategy.
Yeah, and I guess you would have had a lot of conversations with the Lord about this too. Asking Him questions. Why me, and how can I deal with? How has the Lord helped you in your own journey?
Well, first, it's actually my decision to trust the Lord, everything's fine, and to take every day as His day, and to take even every ministry He puts on my heart. Being a minister to singles is not my first idea of life, honestly. But, well, that seems to be a place where I have to be right now, because I seem to be a blessing to many singles. So thank God. And that's my decision to take that opportunity.
You say it wasn't your choice, but how did God actually lead you into this ministry? Because you sound, in a way, you weren't readily embracing it at the beginning. In a sense, He had to lead you and draw you into it. So how did He do that?
Well, He kind of overwhelmed me. I was preaching in a service, and that was a service for the whole church, but with a focus on singleness. And after that, there were two people from a publishing company and were asking, could you please write a book for Christian singles? And I'm like, okay. But I said, okay, God, if that's your plan, if that's what I got to do now, I will. And so since 2 or 3 years, that's my topic. And I'm happy with it most of the time. Sometimes I still think, okay, God, why I have to do that? But it's okay, because I know, I said to God 10 or 20 years ago, my life is yours. My profession is yours, my job is yours. So it would be very unfair to say, but no, I'm not going to do that, It's just, well, it's not just, it's a very hard thing sometimes, but it is my choice to trust that everything He does is okay. Not only okay, but a huge blessing for me and for many others. So thank God.
Now, the Apostle Paul says to the Corinthians that God comforts us in all our affliction so that we might then comfort others. And there's a sense, I guess, of us having to experience the pain in order that we can help and understand and be empathetic
Yeah.
and support others
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
in pain.
That's
Do,
a
do,
big.
do, you, do you see your own pain and difficulty that you've faced as being something that's prepared you better to help others?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge resource for me. You know, every everything that I experienced is a source for others to learn. And I'm a person, and that's a really, it's maybe the biggest gift God gave me. I'm a very authentic person. I talk about everything to everybody, even about sexuality to singles. It's such an important topic to talk about. And I'm like, okay, I just share what's my experience. And that's so important for others. So God somehow made me a role model, and I most of the time I love being that. And my own grief, my own struggle, my own opportunity, my own strategies is helpful for others. And I'm very, very excited about learning from others their strategies, because people are so different, and that's perfect. God made us very different and unique, and I love share all of that.
So this transparency and authenticity has been a great gift for you, but also your background in journalism and your skills and gifts, which are God-given as well in communication, has put you in a place where you are able to communicate very effectively and not just individually to people who you speak with, but actually to many others through your writing as well. When we look at single people, those of us who are married, we've all faced singleness at some stage, but when we're looking at single people who are perhaps older, it seems that some, at least on the surface, seem to cope a lot better with it than others, and that others really struggle. Are there particular attitudes or beliefs that people have that make it more difficult for them to cope with singleness? Can you talk us through that?
Well, at the end, it's all about attitude. You know, I always have the chance every morning when I get up, I can say, what a weird day. It's raining. It's just bad. I have a back pain. And I can soak into that, and I will have a big minus sign over that day. And I can have the same day, the same rain, and the same back pain, and say, well, it's not the best, but it's still the day God made, and it makes a difference. So it's all about attitude. And then there's the person. We all are different and unique in personality. So I'm a fairly happy person in general. I'm not always happy, not always laughing, not always just woo. There's bad times too and hard times, but in general, I'm pretty happy. But still, this is my choice. I want to be happy. Leo Tolstoy, the Russian philosopher, he said that once. If you want to be happy, just be happy. It doesn't start with my feelings. It starts with my choice. I want to be happy, and that's what I tell singles all the time, because there are a lot of singles who are like, yeah, but I don't have that much luck in my life, and my parents, and my education, and my job. And yeah, you can blame, if you want, you can blame everything and anything. But if you want, you can say, yeah, my parents, my family is not great. They are divorced, and our relationship and my job, it's not good. But still, this is the life God gave me, and this is great. You know, it's all about attitude and the choice I make or not.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about choice in the context of choosing attitudes or beliefs, and that there are some things we can hold on to that will just take us down into a negative spiral, and we can keep returning to those things all the time. But in the same way, there are other thoughts and beliefs which will actually liberate us and help us to be more effective. I love the way you talk about balance earlier on. Can you tell us a bit about what beliefs and practices can help a person to balance the pain and the joy in singleness more effectively?
Well, what a lot of Christian singles think is that we are made for marriage, for being mom or dad or mom or husband and wife. And I say, no, You're not made for being married. You're made for being a living sacrifice for the Lord. And you're made to let his light shine on this earth. That's what we are made for. And being married and being mom or dad is great, you know. I'm not fighting against marriage and fighting for singleness. I am fighting for being happy no matter what marital status you're in. I'm still hoping to get married.
Learn to be content with the
Yes.
position in which God's placed you.
And you can only be content when you know what you're still missing. Sometimes I'm really sad and asking, okay, I'm quite an attractive young girl. Why is there no man interested in me? And that kind of scratches my ego, you know, and I'm very, I know about that. And so I can face it. And I also know about, yes, I'm a great person and I'm a blessing for many. And well, I'm not married, but I still have great relationships and I'm very thankful for it. Thankfulness is a key to a lot of things and for happiness.
Jesus, of course, was single and was fully complete as both man and God, and fully occupied in doing God's work and bringing glory to him. Do you get any, how does that help you personally in thinking about what the Lord has experienced?
Well, that's my best argument in talking to other Christian, to pastors who sometimes, well, actually quite often tell me you can't be happy as a single woman. I say, wait, Jesus was single, Paul was single, and he was even saying, okay, if you're married or if you're single, both is great. Well, Paul is saying, I wish you could all be like I am, single, you know? But we tend to forget that.
Again, because of the opportunities it gave him.
Yes.
That he was not distracted at all in what God had called him.
And I so hope that many marriages are really great marriages. I'm curious about that. A lot of people just get married to get married, but they don't have the marriage God has intended, you know. And that is my goal in life, to discover and to get the place where I am meant to be. If I'm married or if I'm single, you know, a lot of people get married and then something tragically happens and they are single again. So that is what life is all about.
Yes.
We think
divorce or bereavement, and we never know what is ahead of us. And those of us who married, how long we will.
Yes. It's all about relationship, and relationship always is hard work.
Are there any resources that you would particularly recommend to people dealing with this whole issue of singleness? Any books or tapes, websites, or where would you point people?
There's not that much, unfortunately. So I always tell people, start your own little self-help group. Find 1 or 2 or 3 other singles in your age, almost, and just start talking, to share your life, about your struggles, your joy, your shame. Shame is a big issue for singles. We are just so ashamed of everything, you know, because something is wrong with us. And to share about that. And then get connected to others. And there's a couple of books, my book only in German available right now. I'm sorry for that. There's a couple of books, and I know that Bethel Church from the US, they have quite a good single life workshop, but there's unfortunately not that much.
Any websites or blogs that you would recommend?
Honestly, no.
There's not a lot?
No.
Okay, well, there's an encouragement for people to be writing more and ministering to this crucial group. You're talking about sharing your life with others, and perhaps that brings us on to the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which was your experience of living in Christian community. So maybe first you can tell us why it is so important to share your life with others, and what you mean by sharing your life with others.
Can I just read a little passage from that book by Larry Crabb, Connecting?
Yeah, so
about Christian
Larry Crabb,
community.
Connecting, yeah, please do.
The deepest urge in every human heart is to be in relationship with someone who absolutely delights in us, someone with resources we lack, who has no greater joy than giving to us, someone who respects us enough to require us to use everything we receive for the good of others, and because he has given it to us, knows we have something to give. The longing to connect defines our dignity as human beings and our destiny as image bearers. It's at the very beginning, when God created man, he said, it's in Genesis 2:18, it's not good for man to be alone. And some people think this is connected to a marital status, but I think it's not. We are created for relationship. God himself is relationship, right?
Yeah,
The
in the
Trinity,
Trinity. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And so that's how we are created, and we desperately need others to to get the fullness of life. I need others that tell me, well, Tina, you are such a beautiful, great person, and the interview was perfect. And then I need others who say, well, Tina, last night, how you dealt with that special person, that was really mean. You know, I need others to reflect myself.
So we need friends that close who will be there to encourage us when we need it, but also to tell us the things that we might not want to hear, perhaps even risk their relationship with us for our own good.
Yes.
To
And
let us
that's
know.
a lot more than friendship. That's
Yeah.
intentional relationship.
Yes.
And I made that commitment with some others that we told each other we want to take care for each other. And we want to say each other that was great and that was not so good. And that's intentional relationship. That's more than friendship. And that makes a whole difference.
Now it's interesting there, you're talking about intentional relationship and you're talking about making a commitment to others where you've actually agreed to support one another, which is interesting. It just hasn't just happened. You've actually made a real decision to go out and do that. So can you share with us a little bit about your own experience of living in intentional community, let's call it that?
Well, it all started several years ago when I discovered that church is not the place where I feel home, because it was only on Sunday morning and then on Wednesday night Bible study, but
Okay.
we didn't get to know each other. And I wanted more. I wanted more life. I wanted more of God in my life. And so I started to pray with my best friend Esther. And God put on our heart to start a Christian community. I still love church, and I think that church is Christian community, and we need a lot more of that intentional community. You know, that people really are allowed to talk into my life. And I have 3 others who are allowed to talk into my life.
So tell us about how this is all physically set up. Do you live in close proximity to each other, or do you make arrangements to see each other regularly? How does it work for you? Describe your
So I
situation.
share my life right now with Esther, my best friend, and we actually share an apartment and a car and everything.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's
And you live in the
another.
same apartment?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are not roommates, but yeah, we share an apartment and a car.
Okay.
And there's another lady. She is a single mom with 2 sons. She lives 130 steps away.
Okay.
So we meet every morning 6:45 for prayer. We meet several times a week for lunch or dinner. And we just know that we are there. And if we need something, if we need help, if we need a car, if we need a prayer or a hug, we are there. And if we need a clear word, we are there for each other. And we also have, if something happens to Esther, I am the one who decides for hospital and bank and mail and all stuff, like the practical stuff, you know. Because even as a single, who is in charge of my person if something happens to me?
Yeah.
We have to think about it, you know, all the justice stuff. Yeah, and we just love to share our spiritual life too. So important, and I think that's how we are made.
I guess there are different models of Christian community. There's no one way of doing it. What are the kind of models that you've seen that really work for single people or others coming together?
I know a lot of models, and I'm pretty happy to discover even more.
Yeah.
So the first thing is it all starts with your heart, and that you discovered, yes, that's how I am made for a community. If you start with, oh, it's pretty good to share life with others because then I get everything I need, that won't work. A lot of people start like that, but it won't work. So it all starts with the commitment for each other. And that could be that there's 3 people who say, okay, we want to be in charge for each other, and we try that for, let's say, 3 months. And we have jour fix for like a phone call every night at 7 o'clock or Skype call, and we share for 30 minutes our day. What was good, what happened, what was not good, what's my prayer, and then we pray. Every day, 7 o'clock. And Saturday night, we have dinner. So they do that for 3 months, and after that, they just check, was that okay? Will we start again? Or
So it's a time-limited commitment to see.
could be, yes.
Yeah, and I guess that gives people confidence that if it doesn't work, it's not a lifelong thing that might be difficult to extricate themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's just a thing to start. Or even if you say, I don't want to be alone anymore and I want to share, you can move with 1 or 2 others in the same neighborhood so that you don't have the long distances in between.
Yeah.
Or you can start share a house with like 4 flats and a living room, or just as I did, share an apartment. But a lot of people are like, community living, I have to share an apartment. For many people, that's a really hard thing. So I say you don't have to, but start with a commitment. If it's for 2 months, a year, 2 years, or your whole life, but do that commitment.
And in your experience, what sort of challenges have there been to living in community? Because like any family or marriage, it's not always easy, and there are difficulties, there are problems to work through. What obstacles or difficulties have you faced along the way, and how have you worked to overcome those together?
It's probably the same as in every family. We are made very unique. That's great, but that's so hard. Honestly, we were fighting in our kitchen about how to cut peppers.
Okay.
Because if you did it all 5 years your way, and then there's another person and she does it in a different way, and you're like, you have to do it my way. And to discover, no, it doesn't matter how you cut peppers, but honestly, you can fight about that.
It's funny how little things like that can often be the trigger.
Yes.
To,
and that's exactly, I'm a very strong person telling others do it that way. And my Esther, the person I share my life, she's more like, okay, very, not so, she's strong, but doesn't talk that much.
So how did you resolve this pepper cutting controversy?
Well, I had to admit that there's 80 million ways of cutting peppers, and that's okay. And it doesn't matter if they are in big squares or tiny stripes.
Okay.
But that's hard, You have to discover that's my ego, and something is going on, and you have to check what is it. And there is personality, there is different history everybody has. There's a lot to discover, though. So the most important thing in community is to tell each other about life. How did you grow up? How did you fight? How did you talk to your parents? What kind of holidays did you do? How do you relax? There are some people who love living, sitting at the beach and just read. That would be horrible holiday for me. I need to go sailing, surfing, hiking, whatever, but don't sit somewhere and do nothing.
So a lot of it seems to be around a very deep understanding of the other person, of their personality, their giftings, their likes and dislikes, and then being willing to make those accommodations too in your relationship to make it work and be the support that it must be for both of you.
Yeah, you need to allow each other to go deep into the other person. Otherwise, it won't work. And it's painful, Sometimes it's really painful. But if you're married for several years, it's also just great if you know each other. And if you go to a buffet and take a plate for your roommate, and mushrooms is great, but no fish. That's small things where you just say, it's good to be not alone.
So for those who are listening who might be interested in exploring this, how, who can resonate with a lot of what you've said, that they love being in the church, but it's just Sunday and home group and there's nothing else. And this whole thing about being intentional, making choices, what steps would you recommend? And I guess a lot of people thinking about this will be very afraid of rejection, or if it's not working out, or they'll ask someone and they won't be interested in it. So it's a challenging thing to take on, to build this kind of community, which is so good. So what advice would you have for people starting out wanting to build stronger community within their churches?
Well, the first thing is to check, what is my need? For me, it was very clearly, I share my apartment with Esther. That's great because we are best friends since 15 years. But I won't share my apartment with anybody else. So if we build up a big house, we will have a lot of apartments and we have a door to close.
Okay.
Because that's important for me. And that was a bit hard to find out, because there's others living in community and they share everything, kitchen, bathroom, and that was not mine.
Okay.
So you have to find out, what is your model, or is it okay if is it enough for me to have one night in the week where I have a phone call and then one supper with others. So what is my need and what fits in my schedule of daily life? That's important too. And then just start and try to find others that have decided in their heart, I want to try that style of life. And I'm very curious about find others who fit, because it will never fit. We are
Yes, you're not going to fit with everybody. It's not going to work with everybody.
Yes, it's not going to work with everybody, but if, this is a very, it's not that easy. It should be some kind of friendship, but still you will find tons of differences. Always.
So how did you, with Esther, how did you come to choose Esther and her choose you rather than someone else? Because you've got lots of friends, but you clearly decided that it was not going to work with everybody.
Well, we did not choose. We were friends for like 10 years, and then
so God
puts us together for that community side. Yeah. But the other lady who joins us now since half a year, she met me at a workshop. And she was pushed by God himself. He said, okay, that's your place to be. And then she was there. We were praying for a long time for another person for this group. And she was just there, and we discovered, wow, God sent her. And so we are very different, but we know God is the kid in between us. So he puts us together, because that's why I'm very, very essential about talking. It needs to fit, because it will never fit. And a lot of people come to me, I have tried with so many people and it never fitted, and then I'm like, maybe it's your thing that doesn't fit. So you have to be very sensitive about that. And just trial and error, just do it and do the commitment. That's so important. I do a lot of weddings, and often I ask people, the couples, so why are you getting married? You're a couple for 10 years. And then they say, well, something is different since we are engaged. And that's the thing. I can't describe any deeper, but that's the thing with the commitment. It makes a difference in the relationship. It makes the relationship more intentional.
Yeah. Tina, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. There's a good movie. You asked me for recommendations.
Okay,
I have a good movie.
Give us a movie to finish.
It's livingincommunity.com. It's from two Swiss filmmakers. And that's a really good movie about communities.
Is it in German?
It's in German and English. Livingincommunity.com is the English version.
Livingincommunity.com. Yes. Great. Thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.